Get your ears wrapped around the Golden State Media Concepts Basketball Podcast. All the scoop you need to know, from college basketball to the NBA and even March Madness. News of your rising stars, topics on and off the hardwood. This is the Golden State Media Concepts Basketball Podcast.
Alright, everybody, peace. Welcome to the GSMC Basketball Podcast Show, brought to you by GSMC Sports Network. As you guys know, I'm your host, Sean Cottle, and it is such an honor to be with you here today, guys. We've got an interesting show today. We are going to be talking about some interesting topics. We are going to be discussing whether Jayson Tatum can be the best player on a championship team. We're going to be giving you some recap on some WNBA playoff action that occurred last night between the Mystics and the Liberty and the Wings and the Dream. But to start off the show, we're going to be discussing whether the Lakers should be title favorites coming into this upcoming season. But before we get started, guys, be sure to hit the subscribe button, hit that like button as well, so you guys can stay up to date on all of our latest content. Be sure to subscribe to us on Patreon as well. You can do so by clicking on the link. You can do so by going to patreon.com. Click on the search bar and typing in GSMC Sports Network. That way you can gain access to all of our exclusive content. And if you'd like to support our network and our company, you can do so by following the link in the ticker below. It's streamelements.com/GSMC Sports Network./tip. Once again, it's streamelements.com/GSMC Sports Network./tip. None of this is possible without you guys as fans, so we're just so grateful for all the support that you guys show us. And it's a privilege and an honor to share my insights and my thoughts and my knowledge on the game of basketball. And it's a privilege to hear what you guys have to think as well, or what you guys have to say as well. So I love this. I'm grateful for this opportunity. But that being said, let's get right into it. Should the Lakers be title favorites coming in next season? As you guys know, the Lakers made some interesting moves this offseason. They re-signed D'Angelo Russell. They let go of Dennis Schroeder. They re-signed Jared Vanderbilt. And they signed They re-signed Rui Hachimura, Austin Reeves, and Lonnie Walker. They managed to retain their core reserve guys, and obviously still have Anthony Davis and LeBron James under contract. But with the way the West is shaped up, Denver is coming back as coming off their NBA championship. Phoenix coming back with Bradley Beal now a part of their roster. The Los Angeles Clippers hopefully being healthy now with Kawhi Leonard and Paul George. And Memphis is still in the mix. Golden State will be in the mix with Chris Paul being part of that roster as well. Sacramento, a very young team that's on the rise. We saw what they were able to do in playoffs against Golden State last year. And Minnesota is still emerging with Anthony Edwards slowly taking those step-by-step progressions into becoming a superstar. And there's quite a bit of talent in the Western Conference, and people are wondering if the Lakers should be the title favorites. And I don't think the Lakers are the best team in the Western Conference, so with that, I don't think they should be the title favorites. We have to ask ourselves, can the Lakers contend in the Western Conference without LeBron James being the best player? And we saw last year that LeBron James had to be the best player on that roster. Anthony Davis has not yet shown us that he can step into that primary role or that number one option role and have his team be successful. And some guys just aren't built to be the best player on a championship team. Like I talked about on the show yesterday, there's only maybe 5 or 6 guys at the most where you can definitively say that they can be the best player on a championship team. And Anthony Davis hasn't shown us that. Each season the Lakers have been competitive. Since LeBron's been there, LeBron was the best player on that team. Even in the 2020 NBA Finals and last season when it made it to the Western Conference Finals, LeBron James was the best player over that stretch of that season. And I haven't seen anything that has shown me that Anthony Davis can be the best player on a championship team yet. Now he's an elite level player, and perhaps this is a season that he'll be able to take that next step. But it's necessary for the Lakers, for him to take that next step, because LeBron's reaching a point in his career where he can't play a full 82 games. He'll need to sit out at least 20 games just to maintain his rest in his body in time for the playoffs. And LeBron isn't getting any younger. He's getting older with each day and with each season, and eventually he won't be able to handle the load that he's carrying right now. And Anthony Davis will have to step up and show that he can be consistent, he can be healthy, take care of his body, and play 82 games and be a strong enough presence where he can be the number one option and the primary player on this Lakers roster. And that's what it will take for the Lakers to contend and be title contenders or even title favorites. But because Anthony Davis has not shown the ability to do that, I don't believe that they'll be able to be considered title contenders. So until Anthony Davis shows that he can be the number one option on this Lakers roster, I don't think the Lakers can be title favorites. But I would love to know what you guys think about this. Do you think that the Lakers are title favorites going into the season? And I've heard a lot of people say that the West is not as strong as it once was, or not as strong as you think. But I don't prescribe to that mindset, because like we just talked about, Denver should be the favorites coming out of the Western Conference again. And then there's still Phoenix, and then there's the Clippers, like we said. Then there's Memphis and Golden State and Sacramento and New Orleans. When held, we have to remember that New Orleans was a team that suffered a lot of injuries last year, and hopefully they'll be able to be back at 100% coming into the season. So that's New Orleans is another team that you'll have to deal with. Dallas, another team that fell off towards the latter end of the season and failed to make the play-in, but they still have Kyrie Irving and Luka Doncic coming back. There's much more talent in the Western Conference than people expect, or than people think. And and Houston is another team, with them signing Fred VanVleet and bringing in Dylan Brooks. That Houston will be a surprise team to a lot of people. We saw how poor Phoenix played, or how young, I would say. They just had a lot of inexperience last year. But then they brought in some veteran leadership, some veteran players in that locker room. And it seems like they have struck that balance between youth and veteran leadership, and that perfect blend is the winning formula for championship teams, or high level teams at least. And Houston seems to have found that sort of sweet spot. So Houston is another team that is going to be making noise in the Western Conference. And there's just Oklahoma City with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. They made the play-in tournaments last year, and they're only going to get better. They still got Josh Giddey, and they're bringing back Chet Holmgren. Luke Dort is continuing to develop. They are a young team there's a lot of young talent in the Western Conference, and Oklahoma City falls right in there as well. So you just can't go off and say that the Lakers are title favorites going into the season, because there's a lot of talent. There's a lot of talent in the Western Conference that people aren't speaking about. And yes, the Lakers are good, but like I led off this topic with, if Anthony Davis can't be the number one option, if Anthony Davis is not the number one option, then the Lakers won't be able to be. They can't be considered title favorites, because LeBron won't be able to carry this load that he once was able to carry. And Anthony Davis hasn't shown me he can be the best player on the championship team or the primary option, and that's why I don't have the Lakers as title favorites. But if Anthony Davis can show me that he's comfortable and able to be the primary option on this Lakers team, then I might be able to change my pick. But until then, I won't be changing my pick, and I won't be changing my stance on whether I think the Lakers are title favorites. But let me know what you guys think. Are the Lakers title favorites coming into this upcoming season? Love to hear what you guys have to say. But in our next topic, guys, we're going to be discussing the Game 2 matchup between the Mystics and the Liberty, our biggest takeaways from that game, and what this means for the Mystics and for the Liberty moving forward, respectively. So stick around, guys. You're not going to miss it. Everybody, welcome back. In case you missed our last segment, we discussed whether the Lakers are legitimate title contenders going into next season, and I just shared my thoughts on that. Guys, be sure to stick around for the last segment of our show where we discuss what Jayson Tatum's ceiling is and whether he can be the best player on a championship team. But for right now, guys, we're going to be recapping some WNBA playoff action that took place yesterday. And we're going to actually start out with the Game 2 matchup between the Mystics and the Liberty. But before we get into it, guys, if you haven't already, be sure to hit the subscribe button, hit that like button as well, so you guys can stay up to date on all of our latest content. And be sure to follow us on Patreon as well. You can do so by going to patreon.com, click on the search bar, typing in GSMC Sports Network. That way you can get access to all of our exclusive content that we post daily. And if you'd like to support our network and our company, you can do so by following the link in the ticker below. It's streamelements.com/GSMC Sports Network./tip. Once again, it's streamelements.com/GSMC Sports Network./tip. None of this is possible without you guys as fans, and we're just so grateful for all the support and all the love that you show us, and it's an honor to share this insight, or my insight and my knowledge on the game of basketball. And if you haven't already, be sure to check out the GSMC Baseball Podcast, GSMC College Football Podcast, GSMC Fantasy Football Podcast, and the GSMC NFL Podcast as well. But let's get right into it, guys. So Game 2 matchup between Liberty and Mystics. As you guys know, Liberty won this matchup 90-85, and a nip-tuck back-and-forth game throughout its entirety. At the end of regulation, Washington was actually up to. Sabrina Ionescu missed 2 free throws that could have tied the game, but Washington allowed the offensive rebound from Jonquel Jones. Jones went on to get the offensive rebound, get fouled, and she made both of her free throws, thus tying the game. And then Washington missed a shot on the next possession, final possession of regulation. Game then goes into overtime, and New York pulls away, and like I said, wins by a score of 90-85. Highly defensive battle. This game proved that Washington has the best defensive backcourt in the NBA with Natasha Cloud and Ariel Atkins, without a doubt. But this was something that we have broached during our preview of this playoff series. And that was something I had brought up, the defensive prowess of the Washington backcourt. However, Washington's front court defensive presence and their rebounding ability showed their inability to rebound, play defense consistently in the front court. It showed during this series, but we have to understand that New York has one of the best front courts in the WNBA with Jonquel Jones and Breanna Stewart, and with Shakira Austin being hurt for the Mystics, and that hurt their rebounding presence, because as you guys know, Shakira Austin was Washington's best rebounder and was one of the best offensive rebounders in the league. And losing that, early in the season when they played against the Liberty, actually, it hurt Washington and it hindered them. But we had to talk about for Washington, at least, we had to talk about the performance by Natasha Cloud, who scored 33 points and had 9 assists and 6 rebounds, playoff career high for her, actually, followed by Ariel Atkins, who had 13 points, 3 assists, and 5 rebounds. Brittany Sykes had 14 points and 12 rebounds. Elena Deladon had 11 points and 4 rebounds. And Misha Hines-Allen also had 10 points and 4 rebounds. So, the guards played phenomenally for Washington. But however, Washington struggled to get any productivity off the bench. The leading scorer off the bench was Shatori Walker-Kimbrough. She had 4 points and 3 blocks and 2 rebounds coming off the bench. But it was hard for them to get any productivity off the bench, and that was another sore spot for Washington. And missing Chrissy Tolliver and Shakira Austin hurt Washington tremendously. Having Chrissy Tolliver's veteran presence coming off the bench would have proved vital, and obviously Shakira Austin's rebounding presence. But interesting topic that we have to discuss now is, for Washington moving forward, is Natasha Cloud the best player for Washington now? Has she surpassed Elena Deladon as the best player in Washington? Being here in the DMV area, a lot of people are starting to talk about Natasha Cloud and have been doing so for the past 2 years now. She's been here since 2019. She was on that championship team when they won back in 2019, just like Elena Deladon was. But Elena Deladon is getting up there in age. She's a little past her prime, while Natasha Cloud is starting to come into her prime. And Natasha Cloud is someone that gets it done on both ends of the court, offensively and defensively. And we have to start discussing whether Natasha Cloud is perhaps the best player on this Washington Mystics team right now. And perhaps should they start building and should they start formulating their roster and their mode of success around what Natasha Cloud does as opposed to around Elena Deladon. That's just something to think about if you're the Mystics. And for the Liberty, Breanna Stewart had 27 points, 9 rebounds. Jonquel Jones had 19 points, 14 rebounds. Courtney Vandersloot had 8 points, 10 assists. Sabrina Ionescu had 11 points, 9 rebounds, 5 assists. Benicia Laney had 19 points, 3 assists, and Kayla Thornton coming off the bench had 6 points, 3 rebounds. So once again, not much productivity for Liberty coming off the bench either. But there's just the talent level of the Liberty is not for real. I mean, we saw how game 1, Sabrina Ionescu went off for 36 points, and in this game, Breanna Stewart goes off for 27. It's just a matter of pick 'em. Whose night is it gonna be? And same way with the Aces, you can't really double off any of these players. And the thing with the Liberty, they have so much size in the low post, and they grab so many offensive rebounds, and which allows them to get second chance points. This one of the reasons why they've been able to dominate so much this season. And it's no question why New York is a super team. But this for Washington, this will be a season of what if and what could have been. Injuries has plagued this team throughout its entirety this season, and it's unfortunate because this team has a lot of talent and has a lot of upside. But they won that championship in 2019, and they brought back a couple of key pieces from that 2019 team back for this season. How much longer will that championship window truly be open before Elena Deladon retires? I would say you got 2 more seasons to do something with this roster before you have to rebuild again. But they have the pieces to do it. They just have to they just have to be healthy. That's it. It's all about the best abilities, availability. But this Washington team, when healthy, I do believe is the 3rd best team behind New York and behind Vegas, obviously. But outside those two, I do think Washington, top to bottom, is the 3rd best team in the WNBA. They just have to be healthy, which is a big factor. But let me know what you guys think. Is Washington's championship window closing? How will the Liberty fare in their next round match? Their matchup against the Dallas Wings in the next round. I'd love to hear what you guys have to think about that. But that being said, guys, in our next segment, we're actually going to be covering Game 2 matchup between the Atlanta Dream and the Dallas Wings. We're going to discuss our biggest takeaways and what we saw from that game. So, guys, be sure to stick around. We will be right back. All right, everybody, welcome back. In case you missed the first two segments of our show, we talked about whether the Lakers should be legitimate title contenders or favorites even to win the championship coming into next season. And in our second segment, we discussed the Game 2 matchup between the Liberty and the Mystics, and the Liberty advancing to the next round of WNBA playoffs. Be sure to stick around, guys, for the last segment of our show, where we're going to be discussing what Jayson Tatum's ceiling is and whether he can be the best player on a championship team. In this segment, guys, though, we're going to be discussing, once again, some more WNBA action in the Game 2 matchup between the Atlanta Dream and the Dallas Wings. But before we get started, guys, if you haven't already, be sure to hit that subscribe button, hit that like button as well, so you guys can stay up to date on all of our latest content. And be sure to subscribe to us on Patreon as well. You can do so by going to patreon.com, clicking on the search bar, and typing in GSMC Sports Network. That way you can get access to all of our exclusive content that we post daily. And if you'd like to support our network and our company, you can do so by following the link in the ticker below. It's streamelements.com/GSMC Sports Network./tip. Once again, it's streamelements.com/GSMC Sports Network./tip. None of this is possible without you guys as fans, so we're just grateful for all the support and love that you show us. But with that being said, let's get right into it, guys. Game 2 matchup between the Atlanta Dream and the Dallas Wings. As you guys know, Dallas won a Game 1 matchup between these two teams after coming back from a 20-point deficit. Dallas was dominant through and through. Aside from maybe the first 4 minutes of this game, Dallas definitely took a hold of this game, took control of this game. And it started with the defensive end. They limited Atlanta to 41% shooting from the field, while they shot 52% from the field. And Dallas forced 16 turnovers. They were led in steals by Natasha Howard, who had 2 steals. This was a Dallas team that is extremely active in passing lanes, and Dallas also out-rebounded Atlanta 29-23. So they also limited second chance scoring opportunities for Atlanta. But the scoring, honestly, they scored 101 points, and there's just so much balance on this Dallas team, top to bottom. So much talent and so much scoring prowess. Natasha Howard, like I previously stated, had 10 points and 9 rebounds, and Satu Sabali, who I think, when I've stated before on numerous times, is the 3rd best player in the WNBA, had 13 points and 4 rebounds and 6 assists, and Arike Gumbawali had 20 points and 7 assists, and Tierra McCowan had 12 points and 16 rebounds, and Crystal Dangerfield had 11 points and 2 rebounds and 1 assist. And coming off the bench for Dallas now, Awak Kier had 13 points and 6 rebounds, and Kalani Brown had 12 points and 2 rebounds, and Odyssey Sims had 8 points and 4 assists, and Maddie Sykers had 2 points. And there's obviously a lot of those reserve players were playing because the game was pretty much in control from about the 5-minute mark in the 4th quarter. So a lot of the reserves got playing time. But there's just so much talent top to bottom, and Dallas is a team that normally goes, even in the playoffs. Game 1 they went about 8 players deep, 8 or 9 players deep, which is a little bit larger rotation than most teams, especially at this point in the season. But watching Dallas play, aside from a few possessions, they do a good job of moving the ball, and they do a good job of getting into quick actions, and not necessarily quick hitters. Because quick hitters are plays that you just draw quickly to get a shot off, and it's normally it's outside of your normal offensive philosophy or set, right? But no, this Dallas team does a good job of getting into their quick actions, whether it be into their DHOs, dribble handoffs from the wing, or getting into their stagger action on the weak side, or even to their quick horns action. Everything's quick and crisp with this Dallas offense, and the ball doesn't stick. And they do a good job of getting rotation of the ball from wing to wing, which forces the help side of the defense to rotate. And as you know, the more rotation you cause on the defensive end, it causes the defense to be in poor positioning, specifically on the help side. And if a defense is in poor positioning on the help side, it allows for easier driving lanes, and it allows for easier shooting opportunities. So, and mind you, Dallas did all this with Sabali and Agumbawali both scoring under their season average. And Dallas is peaking at the right time. They're playing great basketball. And they're matched up with New York in the next round, if I'm not mistaken. If I'm wrong about that one, if you guys can correct me. And if I'm New York, I'm a little concerned about this matchup right here, because as I stated, Dallas is peaking at the right time. We already know that they're one of the best scoring teams in the league, but defensively they're starting to find that chemistry, and they're peaking specifically on defensive end, primarily because they're not allowing, like I said, second chance opportunities. They're doing a great job of rebounding, specifically on defensive end. And for Atlanta, and obviously they're led by Ryan Howard, who had 21 points, but she only shot 9 for 22 from the field. Alicia Gray had 19 points, 7 rebounds. And Cheyenne Parker had 15 points, 5 rebounds. However, Dana Robinson only had 2 points and 4 assists, and Monique Billings only had 5 points and 6 rebounds, and they didn't get much production off the bench either. Out of their lead, out of the players who got the most playing time come off the bench, Ari McDonald only had 2 points and 2 assists, and Alani Rupert had 2 points as well. So this Atlanta team obviously didn't get much production off the bench, but they struggled shooting, and that's because of defensive prowess. Dallas did a great job, phenomenal job of pressuring the ball and doubling off those ball screens and limiting second chance opportunities. And Atlanta is a young team though. They have a solid core of, surrounded by Alicia Gray and Ryan Howard and Haley Jones, who I said coming into the draft this past season, I said that she had potential to be one of the best point guards in WNBA. And how they're eventually going to have to move Haley Jones over to that point guard spot and have Ryan Howard and Alicia Gray play off the ball, just to maximize Haley Jones. And if you don't do that, you're really just wasting that pick. You're wasting that number 2 pick. But that's just my perspective of how I see it. But Atlanta's primed to be successful going for the next couple of years, because they got a solid core group, and they're young, and I'm excited to watch them moving forward. But this Dallas team, they're ready right now. Dallas is ready right now. They got the pieces to win. Do they have what it takes to get over the top of either the Aces or the Liberty? I think they can put up a good series. I think they can give them everything they've got. They can make it a tough series for either of those teams, and it'll be exciting to see moving forward. But with that being said, guys, for our last segment, we're going to be discussing what Jayson Tatum's ceiling is and whether he can be the best player on a championship team. So Guys, stick around for our last segment. You're not going to miss it. So we'll be right back. All right, everybody, welcome back. In case you missed our first 3 segments, we talked about whether the Lakers are legitimate title contenders going into next season. And we covered some WNBA playoff action between the Mystics and the Liberty, and between the Dream and the Wings. And in this last segment, guys, we are going to be discussing what Jayson Tatum's ceiling actually is, and whether or not he can be the best player on the championship team. And, I thought about maybe I should, back my stance on how I feel about this topic with stats and with data. But, I don't need to. I'm fine. Because I'm just going to talk about this based off what I've seen. And I want to preface all this I'm about to say by saying that Jayson Tatum is a phenomenal player. He is a great player and a great talent. And oftentimes when we give criticism, especially in the media, sometimes players can take it personally, but this isn't a personal attack, just based on what I see, specifically basketball. But Tatum is a great player. He's a phenomenal player, and this criticism, whatever criticism he receives, is really just a testament to how good he is. Because if you're not receiving criticism, we talked about this before, Trae Young and Jalen Brunson, if you're not receiving criticism, then you're not as good as you think you are. So because Tatum is receiving any level of criticism from the media, it's because he's a great player. And I say all that to say, we have seen this is Tatum's 2023. This is his 7th year in the league, going to a 7th year in the league, if I'm not mistaken. He has numerous trips to the playoffs, the NBA Finals appearance, multiple Eastern Conference Finals appearance. He made the Eastern Conference Finals as a rookie in 2018. Made it to the second round in 2019. Made it to the Conference Finals again in 2020. Made it to In 2021, they made it to the they lost in the first round in 2021. In 2022, Austin made it to the NBA Finals, and in 2023, they made it to the Eastern Conference Finals again. So this isn't a team. This isn't a Jayson Tatum that is young. I mean, he's 26, 25 or 26, so he's not a young player, and we can no longer use this excuse of him not having playoff experience. He has numerous amounts of playoff experience, and Tatum is in his prime right now. And I say that because some guys, their development and their progression into their prime is slow moving and is more steps to that prime. And then you have some guys that peak right away. A good example of that are guys like Tracy McGrady and a LeBron James and a Rip Hamilton, for guys that know played in Detroit. Guys like a Grant Hill, those guys almost like peak right away, boom. But they peak quickly, they get to their prime quickly, but they never really get past that ascent, that prime level, right? So you got some guys like Kobe and LeBron who do hit that prime, but then there's like another level to that, right? Dwayne Wade's another example of a guy who hit his prime just boom right away after his third or fourth year in the league. But and you have these guys that hit their prime, and you can tell that they're not gonna get much better than this. Like, their peak is great, but there's not much outside of that peak. They're in whatever they're able to do in that peak right there. It's pretty much it. And we have seen with Jayson Tatum, this is his peak. He can get a team to the NBA Finals like he did in 2022, but he hasn't shown the ability to win a championship. And if you're the Boston Celtics, and obviously your ultimate goal is to win NBA championship, and you had multiple iterations, multiple supporting cast members surrounding Tatum and surrounding Brown, if you've seen enough and you know that Tatum is not your guy, is not the guy to lead you to a championship team or to a championship, then the more time he spends in Boston, it's the more time that you waste as an organization. So I don't think Tatum can be the best player on a championship team. And if you're Boston, they know that. If I'm able to come to that conclusion, they know that as well. The issue is they have committed with the extension to Tatum, and they've committed with the extension to Brown as well. However, Tatum is due up for an extension sooner than Brown is. So what is the next step? I know that Tatum can't be the best player, so now we either have to make adjustments of how we're formulating this offensive scheme, or how we're building this team. We're no longer building around Tatum. Maybe we should try building around Brown, because I haven't seen Brown in the primary option, so I can't say whether or not he can be the best player on the championship team. But because of Brown's rebounding ability and his defensive ability, because he's much more active on the defensive end than Tatum is. Tatum's a great defender, but Brown is much more active defensively. I might be able to say that Brown can be the best player on the championship team. And I also said because Brown is able to do what he does in terms of efficiency and his scoring while being the secondary option, which means he gets less shots. So now imagine giving Brown more shot attempts and putting him in the primary scoring role or playmaking role that Tatum is now in. And that is your only option. You have to at least see what you can do with Brown. But I've seen enough. We've seen enough with Tatum being the primary option, being the number one option on the team, and I've seen enough to say, okay, he can't be the best player on the championship team. Not only have I seen it, but he's had opportunities to prove that he can do it, and he hasn't yet. And this is his peak. He's not going to get much better than this. And that is why I believe that Tatum can't be the best player on a championship team, but that doesn't mean he's not a great player. Like I continue to say, there's only 5 or 6 guys at the most where you can confidently say he can be the best player on a championship team. And Tatum is not one of those guys. So that's the place that you're in if you're Boston. But let me know what you guys think. Do you think that Jayson Tatum can be the best player on a championship team? Let me hear your guys' thoughts. But that being said, guys, that's all we have for our show today. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you haven't already, be sure to hit that subscribe button, hit that like button as well, so you can stay up to date on all of our latest content. Be sure to subscribe to us on Patreon as well. You can do so by going to patreon.com, click on the search bar, and typing in GSMC Sports Network. That way you can get access to all of our exclusive content that we post daily. If you'd like to support our network and our company, you can do so by following the link in the ticker below. It's streamelements.com/GSMC Sports Network./tip. Once again, it's streamelements.com/GSMC Sports Network./tip. None of this is possible without you guys, the fans, and we're just so grateful for all the love and support that you show us, and it's an honor and a privilege to share my insight and my knowledge on the game of basketball. If you haven't already, be sure to check out the GSMC Baseball Podcast, GSMC College Football Podcast, GSMC Fantasy Football Podcast, and GSMC NFL Podcast as well. We'll be back again same time tomorrow, guys, at 5:30. So until then, continue to stay safe, be vigilant, make smart decisions, and until next time, guys, peace.